I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription for Your Transformation, real conversations, and real success. And today is another wonderful day. I get to interview amazing people around the world, and very delighted to be talking to Maria Matarelli, somebody that I've interviewed in the past. And the story is quite remarkable. And it's remarkable in that sense is that it epitomizes really what so many people experience today. But unfortunately, so many people just remain stuck with where they are in life. And here's a woman at a very young age being very successful in corporate America and getting some great jobs, if you will, within corporate America, but realizing that this is not the place that she really wants to be. And so with great courage and great strength and dedication, she decided to have a different kind of life. And it's with great delight that I get to share with you today some of her personal secrets that she's also written in a book called Workaholic. So Maria, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Bart. Wonderful to be here. Great to see you again, too.
So I want to jump in, first of all, a brief description of let's call it the context of all of what's happening with you today. And so just a brief synopsis of how your story began in corporate America and what motivated you to change. And then I want to go into an incredible experience that you and I had with an amazing 40 other people out in the South Pacific.
Yeah, so, Bart, I started working at a very young age. So I started working at the age of 15, and I went on to work 3 jobs to pay my own way through college. And so ever since a young age, that's what I saw as what I needed to do, what I needed to do to be successful, to have a career, to get ahead. And growing up, my parents struggled with money a little bit. And when I was 15, they ended up separating and divorced, and my entire world crumbled. And I always kind of tied it back to, the struggles that we had and the arguments that were had. And I just decided I never wanted to be like that, and I never wanted to have that kind of trouble. So I think that's really at the root of what caused this working at a young age is I always wanted to be able to take care of myself and not be let down by other people. And so that was the beginning. Fast forward several years, when I turned 22, I graduated college and I was working at State Farm Insurance, their corporate headquarters in Bloomington, Illinois. And I was managing $5 million projects every year. And it was a little overwhelming. Okay, a lot overwhelming. And I figured I could pick up on the job what I needed to know, and always had that ambition to say, let me try. And I'm sure I can do a good job at it. So these habits continued. I then moved on to work in Chicago doing consulting, got into the consulting space and project management. And, working in a desk, Bart, I felt like I wasn't living, and I just had this yearning to live, to do something that meant something. And every day, sitting in the same cubicle, I felt like I was dying inside slowly every single day. And I just wanted to have some bigger impact and some bigger purpose. And from there, started looking for any opportunity to get ahead. And one thing that opened a lot of doors for me was speaking and developing my skills in public speaking. And I began doing that at different professional organizations. Then it turned into conferences. Then it turned into traveling the world and getting paid to speak from Sweden to Vancouver, Morocco, Istanbul. And 5 years ago, I started my company Formula Inc. in Chicago, focused mainly on helping businesses be more efficient. And then a year and a half ago, launched the Agile Marketing Academy with my co-founder, Nick Cementa. And so everything's just since then been about how to live life, how to enjoy life, how to really get the most out of it. And last 4 years, I've actually been traveling on one-way tickets from city to city and country to country. And I think that brings us to today.
I have to say one thing, and it's such a delight watching you on Facebook and seeing you globetrotting all over the place. And it's sort of like you're like a little Hollywood star. I mean, you're all over the place, and it's so much fun. And what's important, I think, for people to appreciate who are listening in, is that this life is possible for anyone, and you're not just stuck in a certain kind of way of life because this is what's been told to you, or this is what you've been taught, or this is what you now believe is the only way that's possible. And you've really broken the mold, and it's delightful watching you and seeing you're all over the place and meeting new people and doing this and doing that. It's like, wow, she's having a lot of fun.
I appreciate that so much, Bart, because it was a challenging struggle to get to this point. And I do truly believe that anybody can do anything that you really want if you put your mind to it and you just take slow, steady steps to get there.
Nice. So let's jump into our New Zealand trip. And this is a trip for anyone listening in, organized by Olivia List Productions, by Robert Evans and Sprite Loriano Global, the humanitarian efforts throughout the world with water bearers, and with their intention to bring water solutions throughout the world, and to delightful organizations and wonderful people. And so we had the wonderful experience of joining about 40 other people to the South Pacific, South Island of New Zealand, North Island of New Zealand, as well as Vanuatu, which is one of the islands close by to New Zealand, and then also Fiji, where we had to recover from all the traveling and all the things that we did. And for those, again, listening, this is a great experience for all of us, very transformative in many ways, with a very clear humanitarian aspect to it, bringing water solutions, but also most importantly is the opportunity for us all to develop, to transform, but also share our message with others. And I'm very excited to hear from Maria. What was your intention going into New Zealand, and what were your experiences there?
Bart, I appreciate that question so much, because I remember on our call before the trip, you asked me that and you said, "What's your intention?" And I remember being like, "Huh? What? Intention? What do you mean?" And I hadn't even booked my flights at that point. It was less than a month out. And, it didn't really click until later what you meant by that. And I think that I'd been stuck in this, the busyness of life, right? So traveling, training here, training there, speaking here, there. And I don't know that I truly had a lot of time that I put thought into that, into my intention for the trip. And I knew it was supposed to be incredible. When I got the call from Suzanne, my friend Suzanne Oliver, she was like, "Maria, you have to come to New Zealand." And I was like, "Okay, I've never been there, and that sounds amazing. Tell me more." And she said, "There's a group of people going. It's a humanitarian project. We're bringing clean water filters to people in underserved areas in New Zealand and Vanuatu. And there's a bunch of speakers. We'll be speaking in a stadium in Dunedin, and it's going to be amazing. And oh, by the way, it's all going to be videoed, and there's going to be a TV show put out online about it." And I was like, "Wow, Suzanne, how did you happen to hit every single thing that would attract a Maria to an event halfway across the world?" And so I was excited by all of that. I was excited by the whole event and all of the elements and the adventure and things like that. But I don't think I'd really stopped to think about that until you asked me that question before the trip, Bart. And I think I was stumped a little bit when you asked that, because I was like, okay, so there's supposed to be something that I have an intention about. So I should think about what that intention should be or something. And I remember that it caused me to stop and think, but yet my mind didn't fully wrap around it at that time when you asked the question. But I thought, oh, I should think about thinking about an intention. And so overall, I hadn't thought about it too specifically, but I had in general thought, I'm up for the adventure, I'm open to the experience, and I want to be open to what happens on the trip. So I remember being, in general, feeling open to the experience of the trip, but I couldn't really truly put my finger on what I wanted out of it. And what's incredible is that what I got out of it was what I should have or could have or would have wanted, but so much more. So the output was incredible, but leading into it, I think like so many times with so many situations in life, we're doing so many things and we're so busy that we don't actually stop to think about what we're about to do.
And that is so true. And it's almost like so many of us, and I include myself in that as well, as we're like automatons. We just, do the same thing day in, day out. And we have this general sense of, okay, sort of want this and we want that. And usually it equates to, yeah, I just want to be happy. I want to be comfortable. And unfortunately, I think too often, it gets to that point where we just want comfort. We just want absence of pain. And until you're exposed to these kinds of experiences, you actually don't really realize what's actually possible. And then once you do realize what's possible, then fortunately, then you can have more of those intentions. And that's been my experience. I trained for 17 years in the medical field. I mean, that's all I did. And so I never had to come up with any kind of intentions until recently, going on trips like this. So, thank you for being so honest. And let's be honest with the listeners, and asking this question for them. How often is that happening in your life? And what I really appreciate from a lot of my training with Tony Robbins and as a strategic coach with his group is that, everything that you do needs an outcome. And that's where you can get so much more fulfillment in life. And a great quote from Tony Robbins as well is, maturity is knowing the results in advance. So what that really means, how that translates, is to, know your outcome and go for it. And that's where you live a very fulfilled life. And I know, by the way, that's how you live your life today.
Yeah, I think that's so important, Bart, because when you look at all the things around us and how busy life can get, if we're not intentional about what we want out of life, I think that's how the months pass or the years pass and you say, man, where did 2017 go? And then we feel like life is passing us by if we're not intentional about what we want.
Yeah, spot on. So tell me about New Zealand, because New Zealand was very, very special for all of us. Everybody had a very different experience. And all I can remember you were just having so much fun and you were doing all sorts of things. And so share with the listeners, what was New Zealand?
Yes, I remember when we arrived in Queenstown, New Zealand, and I first met everyone, and there's this group of 40 people, and I knew it was going to be other coaches, authors, speakers, other people that were interested in making an impact. And it was really neat to start to connect with people, but it felt like a little bit of a slow start, right? So we had a few group activities and dinners, and I remember really trying to remember everybody's name at the beginning. And then I think once we hit Dunedin, that's really where the connection started to happen, because something really incredible happened in that stadium. So we were speaking at the Forsyth Bar Stadium, and they'd roped off a whole section, and it was a magnificent setting. It was just incredible as far as the venue in and of itself, and we're live streaming it to thousands of people. So that was pretty cool. And I remember that as people started speaking on that stage, everyone was being so open and so vulnerable and sharing authentically from just their deepest part of their being. Right. And I remember in our circle the night before when we were going to present at the stadium that everyone was talking and, each person had an opportunity to say something, and they're like, yeah, what's your intention? That came up again, right? What's that theme of what is it you're hoping for from this event? And I remember thinking that my goal was just to be as vulnerable as possible. And in a way that I haven't been, dare I say, ever? I think ever would be appropriate here. And it was a big step for me because, working so young and starting at such a young age, I always felt like I had to be very professional to be taken seriously. And to be 22 years old, managing $5 million projects a year at a large Fortune 100 company, I mean, I can't mess up, right? And I'm younger than everyone around me, and I always thought I need to wear my suit jacket and I need to like look super professional and have my hair pulled back and look super sharp and, you know, just act professional. And what I didn't realize is that by doing that, I was actually closing myself off to people because they couldn't truly get to know me. There was this barrier or this wall that was up. And
Right.
in this stadium, I mean, I've been speaking for years, Bart, and I've never told these stories that I told on that stage in New Zealand. And, you know, just to have it live streamed and publicly commemorated forever on video, you know, like that's a big step. And the things that I shared was a lot about the hurt that I went through when I was younger and having my family fall apart and feeling like everybody that was ever supposed to love me and be there for me had abandoned me. And that's why I worked so much. It was because that's the only thing that was reliable for me. And it was the
Right.
only thing that I felt like I could do that wouldn't let me down. And that's so sad, right? Like to turn to just working around the clock. And I wonder for other people that work all the time, like what's that reason behind it? And do you ever slow down to think about you, think about how you feel, and think about what you want out of life? And actually heal those things that you're running from sometimes. And so New Zealand was an amazing opportunity for me to talk about that, and then also to talk about a very traumatic experience that happened a year ago that, again, I'd never shared because I thought that vulnerability was weakness. What I hadn't realized was that vulnerability is actually strength, and it helps you connect with people in a genuine way. And I just haven't been doing that for so long because I was afraid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Afraid of people judging me, afraid of people not hiring me, afraid of people not working with my company. And as you know, I got very sick a few years ago and was in and out of the hospital several times. And for some people watching this, they'll be like, what? When did that happen? Because there's no trace of this online. There's no trace on social media. I didn't post about it. It was like a silent struggle. And what I realized is that that doesn't do me any good to keep it quiet and not talk about things that are actually happening in my life and challenges. And there's probably other people that can relate to that. There's probably a lot of other people going through a similar thing. But I thought if people knew that I was sick, that, you know, there goes my business, nobody will hire me, and I'm done. And brand was everything. So, oh, we can't hurt the brand, right? Like trying to build a business here. And what I did was on that stadium in New Zealand, on that stage, I talked about this and I just put it all out there. And I said, here's the things that crumbled my world growing up. And here's the things that, you know, the worst experience of my life a few years ago, in and out of the hospital. I couldn't walk for half a year. And nobody knows this because I didn't tell them, because I didn't want them to know that I was weak. But then when I thought about it, I was like, whoa, that's actually a way to connect with people, to show that you're not perfect, to show that it's hard, to show that it's a struggle sometimes, but you can get through whatever struggle you have, because here's the struggle I've gotten through. So I think that that's truly what New Zealand was about for me, was really opening up and peeling back all of those layers that I've been hiding for so long, because I thought that it was wrong to be vulnerable and that it was a negative thing. But just the compassion from everybody in our group, as we went on to stay with one of the oldest indigenous tribes in Bay of Islands in New Zealand, and just away from, off the grid, away from electronics for 5 days, and just the circles that we had, the sharing. And I repeatedly, again and again, shared the most vulnerable things I could think about. And it was incredible to be met with love and be met with open arms, and to not be judged, and to actually feel like that was okay. And that was just one of the most refreshing experiences in such a long time, Bart, because, well, how often do we just go through life on the surface level? How are you? Fine. How's your week? Great. How's your day? That's okay. You know, and there's nothing meaningful in that. And
Right.
so I feel like New Zealand was truly an opportunity to just open up, and for me to step forward and open up in a way that I just haven't ever before. And I remember when Sprite asked that one morning in Queenstown, she said, does anybody have anything that they don't want to share? And I was like, what? Don't want to share? That doesn't make sense. Oh, wait, I see what she's doing there. And I thought really hard about that for a minute, and I said, what would I not want to share? And the thing that I didn't want to share was that I was really freaking tired, and I just didn't feel like I had any energy anymore. And getting over being sick and trying to get back to normal was something that I hadn't fully felt like I'd ever recovered. And I just felt like giving up all the time. And like, who shares that? But it was okay to share that because it was a room that was safe. It was a group of people that was full of love. And it's okay to be human, is what I've realized. It's okay to be human and to connect with people, because that's like the most meaningful thing that you could ever do in life.
You're absolutely right. And, my favorite, phrases that I use on this platform, I have been using for a long time, is giving ourselves permission to be human and not having to explain it, justify it, deny it, excuse it, qualify it, or whatever. I mean, it's just you, and not even suggesting that it's perfectly imperfect, which to me makes absolutely no sense. But here's what's true. And so many people are just so fearful of losing connection, losing love, losing their job, because now somebody thinks they're inferior. And truthfully, the easiest way for someone to feel to fill up their ego, if you will, to feel more self-esteem, if you will, is by judging others. And so they can feel better about themselves when they judge other people. And what they don't realize unconsciously, they're also noticing that these are attributes or qualities within themselves that they're not happy with. And so they're, in effect, also judging themselves. And here's what's interesting, and this is why being witnessed like you were witnessing, and some people will honestly be very critical. So, why is she saying all these things, right? The truth is that once you let go of them, once you're able just to release them, you're no longer putting so much energy in denying them and hiding them and justifying, qualifying them just so that you can feel good. We all want to be happy. We all want to feel good about ourselves. And just by saying, hey, look, this is me, and then finding people that can relate to that can either say, hey, well, that's me too, or, hey, you know what, I'm just going to love you the way you are. And that's what's beautiful in relationships too, is that when you can just, look at your partner and say, hey, you know what, I just love you the way you are. And that's what I do. I mean, it's if we can approach life, without that judgment, because in that judgment, you lose that opportunity to see the greatness in everyone else. And that happens in you as well. And so by just letting it out and letting the world to see, and then seeing what then happens, is an incredible release. And I commend you for that, because it takes a lot of courage. But your life, because of that, is now very different, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how is it different?
Bart, I feel lighter. I feel like there's not such a weight on my shoulders, that there's not all this pressure to just do everything perfect all the time, that it's okay to not do everything perfect all the time. And I actually had a pretty impactful conversation a few months ago with Dr. Alistair Coburn, who's pretty well known in the Agile community. And he was at a conference in San Diego, and we were talking one of the evenings. It was after the networking event, and we were talking about things being done like 100% or perfect. And he was telling me about someone that he had been in his life for a period of time that would always try to make things better. So he would just sit still, and then things around him would get better. So, oh, it's too bright in here. Oh, it's a little too cold. Oh, I don't like where, we need to move this couch or chair because the feng shui is off or something. And he said he would just let it happen because he would just sit there and things would get better. But he wondered, was 96% good enough? Is it okay if we're at 96%? Do we need to keep tweaking and adjusting everything so much so to try to get to that point of perfection that you're not even enjoying sitting there, doing whatever you're doing? And I thought about this, and I've actually thought about that a lot since. And in almost everything I do, I'm like, have I hit the 96%? Is this good enough? Am I there? Can I call this done? And coming from a background of just feeling like a perfectionist of, things have to be right, or, oh, that wasn't right. Oh no, panic, right? And I truly have been working toward embracing that 96%. And, is that enough? And when you think about that and how we show up, I mean, do we have to be perfect? No, because that's not genuine. That's not real. And it's not necessary. 96% is absolutely good enough. And one of the things that I've yearned for in life for quite some time now is just meaningful conversations and experiences. And as you know, and many people know, I've been traveling literally on one-way tickets for the last 4 years, and just city to city, country to country, hopping cities, hopping countries. And it gets really lonely. And it's kind of cool to know people all across the world. And I was just in Toronto a few days ago, and I was able to connect with people I've known for years, or people I'd met last time I was there. And so I've developed kind of a cool network across the world. So it's different than not being by my friends in Chicago and just, having different friends in different places, but it still gets lonely at times. So what I've grown to just yearn for is just meaningful conversations and meaningful experiences. And I feel like we don't get those often. And when they do happen, they're so memorable and they're so precious because, well, it's a moment for connection, right? It's a moment to feel that you matter and connect with somebody else and show them that they matter.
And obviously there's always about connections and we need that. I mean, it's one of our 6 human needs. It's love and connection, and having some form of certainty and things like that. And so I also understand, and thank you for sharing, by the way. And I had a great question, but it was like in the beginning of what you just said, and I already forgot what it was. Maybe it'll come up in a moment. But we don't have a lot more time. And what I wanted to hear more about this amazing book that you have. And it's interesting once again, because, we all get stuck in this idea, this notion that we need to do and do certain things in a certain way, or we need to achieve certain things, or talk about perfection. Everything has to be perfect. And here's what's interesting about perfection. And then we'll go into your book, a great book called Workaholic. But as a plastic and reconstructive and regenerative surgeon, we have a saying that says, the enemy of good is better. And so when something's really good, that's when you stop. Because as you start fiddling around with this and that, making this better and making that better, when it comes to the anatomy of a person and the surgical situation, then we actually make things worse. And so what's interesting too is when you think about perfection as well, perfection in whose mind? Is it in your mind or the rest of the world? Because here's the truth, is that may be perfectly perfect in your mind, but it's not going to be perfect in the rest of the world. So that's a standard that's not attainable. And that's something else that Tony Robbins says, perfection is not a standard. And you could be extremely happy with something, and that's great. Outstanding is awesome. That's a great standard. And the truth is that even when something's that outstanding, somebody's going to find fault in it. But ultimately, it's about what it is that you feel. I mean, if you think you've done a great job, then that's what matters. And interesting enough, when you're listening to the exponential entrepreneurs like Peter Diamandis in his book In Bold, I love what he says. And he says, fail quickly, fail often, fail forward. And what does that mean? Is that you're not going to have things perfect. Things are going to totally fail, because if you want something to be absolutely perfect, then guess what? You're too late. Everything, the trend has gone. Whatever you wanted to create was great, 5 years ago, but you waited to get it perfect, and now it's too late. And so doing something that's really, when you're fully aware of who you are and getting in alignment into your personality, that's what matters most. And so I'm excited about your book. Your book is about Workaholic. So tell us what the book is about and how people can use it.
Yeah, thank you, Bart. When I wrote this book, my friends, they said they thought it was a cry for help. And I've never disagreed with them on that. I was like, that could be because I've had this pattern of working all the time and working for so long. And I felt like, it was one of the only things that I could control, one of the only constants in my life. And when I wrote this book, I really was thinking, okay, how can I not work as much? And maybe if I can put together some steps, I can follow them and go through them, and I can help other people that I've talked to that seem to have challenges as well with working too much. And, when you look at the book cover, actually, there's an owl with coffee cups and coffee beans. And I think that says something right there. And whenever workaholics do see this, I feel like they're just kind of drawn to it. They're like, oh, like, will that help me? What is this? And, it's a smaller book because workaholics don't have a lot of time to read. That would be terrifying to have a large book. So it's a pocket guide. It's a 12-step guide to having a life and getting things done. And the whole intent is to explore how to create new habits on truly living and enjoying every moment of life and not letting work define you, not letting your life gets sucked up by work. And that happened to me for so long. And all I did was work. And now I don't feel like I have to work. I don't even want to work all the time. I want to live. And I want to live and I want to enjoy life with people around me. So I'm so excited that today I'm launching my book on Amazon. So I'd self-published it, but it's available on Amazon today, and you can get it for a special price of just $1.99. So I don't know how much lower I can go. I tried to make it lower. I tried to make it 99 cents, and Amazon wouldn't even let me because it's available now. And I just want to invite people to go to workaholicbook.com, and you can see the link to get the book, and then also some special bonuses. I'll be doing an online training where it's just going to help you to figure out, what are the goals you want to achieve? How do you get there? How do you fast track everything you're doing? And that's a lot of what I consult on is agile practices on how to do twice the work in half the time and just be more productive in what you do and get the result rather than just be working all the time. So thank you so much for asking about the book because I'm so excited about it and so passionate about this topic because it truly is a serious thing and a serious problem. And I had struggled with it for so long. And it's a journey, right? But I feel like I figured out a couple things along the way. And I'm just very excited to be able to share that with others.
Awesome. And as you were describing it, I bought the book. $1.99 on Amazon.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So I'm excited about the success of this book because I'm sure it'll be very successful. And I totally agree with you. Is that you want to make something that busy people, entrepreneurs, if you will, need to be very efficient with their time, and that's why I actually wrote my book, 52-Week Success Plan, in 5 easy minutes in a sense. And so it's the same kind of concept, how to make things easy for us. Because the premise is, if you make something easy, then if success comes easy, it's going to lead to more success. So I'd like to wrap it up with you, Maria. It's been a delightful conversation, and I'd like to hear from you, moving forward after New Zealand, after this incredible transformative event, because it was very transformative for all of us in so many different ways. And as you move forward in your career, in your future, what's going to be different? What's the focus or the intention, if you will, different than from what it was before?
There actually are changes happening in my life, Bart. And this year I had said I want to travel less as a goal. And I've since failed magnificently, like in the most magnificent way someone could fail at that. And I'd still been hopping cities and countries and, here, there, everywhere. And I just wasn't taking that time to slow down and to slow down for me and to slow down for health. And one of the things I've decided is that, I do need to take some time off, and I've asked for help with that. I've learned from a great enterprise coach named Michael Sahota. He's from Toronto, and he talks about agile leadership, and it starts with you and how you show up. And we have to make those decisions. And when you can't do it yourself, sometimes you have to ask for help. So I was talking to my friend, Dr. Alistair Coburn, and he was explaining to me how to block off time of my calendar. And it was like the most basic conversation anybody could have. And I'm like, okay, we're in San Diego. And I'm like, so I just block off these days and I don't schedule anything there? Is that what you're saying? He's like, yeah, you like block them off, and then you like make it a different color, and then you don't let anything into that time. I was like, okay, I think I understand. Let me try it, right? So the last couple weeks, I actually spent in Florida, staying on Treasure Island, hanging out with friends in Tampa, friends in St. Pete, Clearwater Beach, and it was absolutely amazing just to take some time off the road and regroup a bit. And then I've also decided, so I've kept most of September and most of October open and a little bit of November, and I haven't been booking up my schedule. I've actually been working on scaling my company so that I can send out other trainers. And I've started to do that. And it's kind of amazing. So I can like send out other trainers to go on site. And it's not Maria hopping on a plane from East Coast to West Coast, over to Europe, over to, up to Canada and back and forth. So I'm truly looking at specific things I can do to live a more sustainable life. And then when I do travel, you're going to love this one. I've decided that I want to have fun as I travel and just integrate my hobbies and integrate fun time into the work. So next week, I'm actually leaving to head out of the country again. And I'm going back to Fiji, then to Shanghai, Singapore, Bangkok, and India, then back to the US. And I'll be doing some training classes, so Agile Marketing certification training in Shanghai and Bangkok. I'll be speaking at a conference in Singapore and doing an Agile certification class in Bangkok and in India. But here's the thing, Bart. I am actually turning this into a worldwide DJ tour. And I partnered with the DJ from 3-6 Mafia, which is a very successful group and full of some rap artists. And what's really fun is that DJ FNA, he's been traveling with them for the last 4 years as their official touring DJ. And he and I are going on tour around the world in 30 days. And we're going to be DJing all around the world next month. So this is our Limitless tour, and it just feels like such an appropriate topic and title and theme to just, you can do anything you want to do. And, I'm taking some time off, but then while I am on the road, I'm doing my most favorite hobby, which is DJing, and just bringing a crew with me and just making it fun. So, from having the time off and taking that time to DJing around the world, I mean, why not, right? So these are the changes, Bart. This is the new improved life for Maria Matarelli, which is, just loving it to the fullest.
That's absolutely beautiful. And I'm going to finish up with one question. Did the 22-year-old Maria, who's with an insurance company, ever imagine a life like this right now?
Bart, I wrote down on a piece of paper once, because they say that you need to write down your goals. And I remember writing down 5 years from today, right? Where do I want to be? And I wrote something down that at the time I didn't truly believe was possible because I didn't know how I could get there. But I did write it down. And it said, I want to be living in an amazing environment, maybe on a beach, beautiful climate. I don't want to be in a 9-to-5. I want to have freedom and flexibility in my schedule. And, there were all these elements where I couldn't truly picture how to get there, but I did write it down in a notebook. And so it was like this longing and this yearning, but I didn't truly know if it was possible. So it's absolutely incredible. And sometimes I even wonder, how did I actually get here? And this amazing life. But when I think back, I know what it was. It was having the vision, setting the goal, and taking one steady step after the next to achieve that. And it's not an overnight thing. It's an overnight success after 10 years of hard work. Is that what that is that they say? And so it was literally one incremental step after the next to get to this point. And boy, was it blood, sweat, tears, and frustration. All of those moments I can recall examples of. So I just want to encourage other people that if whatever your situation is, wherever you want to be, I believe you can do it. And you can do anything you put your mind to. And it starts with having clarity on what that vision is, setting the goals, and then just taking one steady step after the other.
And I'm going to add to that, when that time comes, when you're choosing to dream, dare to dream and dare to dream big, and just commit to that vision, as I have and as you have. And yes, it may take a long time, it may be a short time, but just do what you love and just work at it. And it doesn't come overnight, just like you said. So I really want to thank you today, Maria Matarelli, CEO and founder of, what was it again? Formula Inc. That's right. And the Agile Marketing Academy.
Yes, co-founder of the Agile Marketing Academy.
And author of Workaholic. So I really want to thank you. I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription for Your Transformation, Real People, Real Conversations, and Real Success. And I'll be back next week live on Facebook. And soon enough, we'll be combining that with YouTube as well as Periscope. So thank you, and God bless.